Hi everyone, this is Rudy Carlos, co-host of Catholic Drive Time. Welcome back to this week's Memory Hole news segment. This segment was on hiatus for a couple of weeks because my mom was in town and we had a fantastic time. She spent a lot of time, much needed time, with her granddaughter, praise be to God. But if you're new around here, the segment is done every Friday and it highlights a handful of news stories that will inevitably get memory holed. These are the stories that get forgotten in our super fast news cycle, but nonetheless, they have some sort of impact on your life. Please make sure to like this video down below and use the thumbs up button, or leave a comment in the com box with all of your feedback or the story you thought was most interesting. All right, let's just jump right into this week's stories. This one is from Reuters, and the headline goes, Johnson & Johnson to end global sales of talc-based baby powder. In 2020, Johnson & Johnson announced that it would stop selling its talc baby powder in the United States and Canada because demand had fallen in the wake of what they called misinformation about the product's safety amid a barrage of legal challenges. Now you might say, well, that sounds a little fishy, and it is, because the company faces about 38,000 lawsuits from consumers and their survivors claiming that its talc products cause cancer due to contamination with asbestos, a known carcinogen. Now, in response to the whopping amount of lawsuits, Johnson & Johnson spun off a subsidiary company and immediately placed it into bankruptcy, which paused the pending lawsuits. The defendants of Johnson & Johnson say that this is an equitable way to compensate claimants. Now, as I mentioned before, I'm a father, and I have a daughter, and she just turned 1, and I have another girl on the way. Now, being a first-timer, there's a pretty steep learning curve with all of the different schools of thought and anything from which method of sleep training you use to which type of accessories you should consider, etc. If you allow yourself to go down this rabbit hole, you find out that a lot of different information that's actually unreported or underreported or lost in the search engine. You know, just as an example, most people don't know that the schedule for vaccines changed. And it used to be that children didn't have to get a bunch of vaccines all at one time or in two different times. Some have speculated, for instance, that this change has correlations to the types of mental disorders that are pretty common today. And at one point, I realized that I had to question all of the conventional wisdom and all of the products that are sold along with that wisdom to make a more informed decision for the good of my family. Parents who are in a similar situation now have to make better choices for what they buy for their children when it comes to food, diapers, or whether or not to use certain products like this talc, which has 38,000 different claimants who have said that they've experienced some sort of injury from this. Now, just imagine this. This is a product that is mostly used for children, and because they find themselves in this situation, families have to make difficult choices because it may cost the life of a child. So anyway, let's fly over to Canada for this next story. This one is from LIFESITE News. Great website, by the way. I'm not really digging their format. LIFESITE, if you're listening to this segment, which I doubt that you are, but if just on the off chance, what is up with the format of your website? It's just horrendous. I can't find any of the Catholic news. If I click Catholic on it, I don't get any Catholic news. I get just like world news. So anyway, if you're listening, fix that. But the headline goes, Canadian government data shows a 260% increase in anti-Catholic hate crimes. The article goes on to say, on August 2nd, Statistics Canada published a report revealing that hate crimes across the country against Catholics in 2021 experienced the largest rise out of any group, a news story which has largely been ignored by mainstream media. The total recorded hate crimes against Catholics rose from 43 in 2020 to 155 in 2022. Furthermore, misleading reports of alleged mass graves sparked a series of attacks against Catholic churches across Canada. More recent investigations from January 2022 found that despite the allegations of a physical genocide on the part of the church against Indigenous people, no graves have actually been found. Go figure. All this talk about graves and none have actually been dug up. No one has actually taken a shovel to go and find these mass graves. I find that fascinating. And while all of this is happening, you get an increase in hate crimes against Catholics, church burnings, and the like. Fascinating. Now, another article here. This one is from the Daily Wire, and the headline goes, Christian school keeps lunch funding despite rejecting Biden administration's Title IX changes. A Christian school in Florida will continue to receive federal lunch funding despite rejecting the Biden administration's expansion of Title IX to include sexual orientation and gender identity. According to court documents, the case threatened to end free meals for 56 low-income students attending the school. The expanded Title IX regulations sought to withhold funding from schools for failing to comply with new requirements related to the use of school restrooms, hiring, and preferred pronoun usage. Now, in case you're not up to date on what Title IX is the most commonly used name for the federal civil rights law in the United States of America that was passed as part of the Education Amendments of 1972. It prohibits sex-based discrimination in any school, any other education program that receives funding from the federal government, and is now being used to justify giving these legal protections to so-called transgender people. You can see how insidiously it's being used here in this story by strong-arming Christian schools into playing along with the delusions of people who think that they're something that they're not. So much for being oppressed, right? I mean, they claim that they're the small minority, that they're just being so oppressed, and yet they have the might of the government and the might of corporate America backing them. Just look at what happens every June. Every company puts out all kinds of things about transgenders, about homosexuals, about so-called gay marriage and so-called gay rights. But they're the oppressed ones. Now, going on to another article, this one's from LIFESITE as well. And the headline goes, 12-year-old Archie Battersbee was baptized before he died after hospital removed life support. This was a really tough story to read through. It was going on over the span of many months. But this is according to the story here from LifeSite. It goes, 12-year-old Archie Battersbee, who died Saturday after doctors removed him from life support, was baptized on Easter Sunday after he was taken to the hospital. His family engaged in a series of legal battles to keep their son on life support. But like many other families fighting to keep their children alive, they ultimately lost, based on a decision that he was likely dead. Archie was removed from life support and died shortly thereafter. However, Archie's story has a unique silver lining. The young boy was baptized and received into the Catholic Church just days after he went into a coma. The backstory here is this young boy, I believe he was participating in some sort of TikTok challenge. And as you know, I hate TikTok. This is a very great example of why you shouldn't let your kids go on there. He was going on with a TikTok challenge, and he ended up being brain dead. I'm not sure what the circumstances were. Maybe he was holding his breath too long or whatever. Point is, he went into a coma. And the hospitals were considering him to be brain dead, and they wanted to refuse treatment to him. They didn't want to keep him on life support. And so the parents went on to go and fight a legal battle to keep him on life support, just in case something happened where he would miraculously come back or anything, etc. You know, I mean, it's not uncommon for people who are in comas to return. There's many such stories of this instance. Now, continuing with the story here from LifeSite, they say, according to his mother, Archie had long desired to be baptized, as he had been especially inspired by Christian boxers on television. While Archie lost his temporal life on earth, his baptism grants him access to the life of grace and the life of the church. In addition to opening the way to his own salvation, Archie's suffering led to his family's reception of baptism and acceptance into the Catholic Church. It allows their souls to be flooded with grace so that they have the strength to overcome the challenges of earthly life, remaining in the friendship of God, so that they might one day hope to attain heaven. Resquiat in pace, Archie. What a sad story. You know, I wish it was an anomaly, as I mentioned. You know, something that doesn't happen with regularity, but there have been many such stories in Europe. And I think a discussion needs to be had about the way that hospitals and medical institutions have become corrupt with politics and have failed their Hippocratic oaths to help their patients. Hospitals are so big now, it's almost as if you're dealing with a corporation, and very impersonal. The turnaround is very quick, and a lot of people feel that they aren't being treated with care. They're not being taken seriously, that their ailments aren't being taken seriously. And I think a larger question stands too. To what end should they have a say on how and when a person gets their treatment terminated? You know, one sick aspect of the story is that Archie's parents, after acquiescing to the courts and to the hospital, petitioned to have Archie transferred to a hospice so that they could be with him in his last moments in privacy as he breathed his last. But you know what they got in response? The courts and the hospital said that there would be dangers involved in the transfer, and they denied their request. I feel so much solidarity with these parents. I feel so much of their frustration because I was in a similar situation with my late father. I lost my father at the height of the lunacy of these past years. The hospitals, they wouldn't let me get in to bring a priest to him. They wouldn't let me hold his hand and comfort him in his last hours. And he died alone, without the sacraments, because someone thought they knew better about his health, spiritually, physically. And how much more important is the spiritual health of a person? At the very least, with this very sad and tragic story with Archie, the silver lining is that he was accepted into the body of Christ. Praise be to God for that. But I think we have to have that conversation. At some point, we have to have that conversation. To what end do these people have the authority to terminate your treatment? To what end do they have the authority to ban you from exercising your religious beliefs and bringing a priest into a room? This is at the very least, the very least compassion that you could give to a family who is hurting so much, understanding that their parent is about to die, that their child is about to die. I'm talking about my particular situation here. I did not get that compassion from the supposed Catholic hospital. So we have to pray for justice, because on this side of the heavenly veil, I don't think we're going to see that justice. But God is just. And I pray that we can come to that peace of soul, that God is just. That despite all of this crazy stuff that happens in the world, that there's a reason why it happens. That there is a greater good that can come out from our suffering. Well, that's going to do it for this week for the Memory Hole. Please make sure to like this video, subscribe to Catholic Drive Time, and let me know in the comments which story you found most interesting. Until next week, God willing, this is Rudy Carlos. God bless you and Mary keep you. And if you're looking for a way to continue being informed and inspired, make sure to tune in to Catholic Drive Time. We stream live Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central on the Guadalupe Radio Network. You can go to grnonline.com/CDT to find out what radio station you could broadcast us from, or you can interact with us live on YouTube, Facebook. You can go on Odyssey, Rumble, pretty much any website that you would use for streaming, we're on. And you can comment and interact with us live as we do the show Monday through Friday, as I mentioned. Thank you very much for tuning in. God bless you and Mary keep you. Until next time.